Hello, hi, hi. Hello, hi, hi. Welcome back to Here We Grow. I think I'm going to call this 2.0 because this feels like a different version of me and a different version of this pod vlog, as now I am also focusing on adding this to YouTube. I have been so inspired by all the content that I'm finding on YouTube, and it just feels like a place where we can be open and not censored and a little weird and esoteric. And I am all about all of those things. So if you're listening on your podcast platform, you're just getting my voice. And on YouTube, you will be getting some live action. Today, I'm just sitting in my meditation chair and felt called to record from this cozy, comfortable space. And in the future, I'm going to be going live in my yoga studio and offering practices, or going live when I'm out in nature and offering practices, or going live when I'm sitting in meditation somewhere and offering practices so that it's more collaborative and it's more collective connection, which just feels like exactly what's opening right now. And I keep getting these direct messages that I can no longer ignore, that it's time to step into this space. So here we grow. I'm actually feeling a little bit nervous. I sat here and like adjusted and adjusted and adjusted and adjusted and was like, what time and where, and have all my things, my book and my cards and my sage. And I'm like, just start this dang thing, because what time is better than the present? As they say, the present is a gift. So I'm just really excited to be here today, which is also nerves and excitement and anxiety all go into the same category, where it's just this like bubbling inside, because I know that there's a massive activation happening within me, within the collective. If you're tuned in energetically, which most likely if you're checking into this video or this podcast today, you're tuned in energetically. I just trust and know that these types of messages come to us when we're tuned in energetically, and all of a sudden we're aligned and this new message drops in, or this new person drops in, or this new guide, or this new practice, or this new ritual, or this new way of eating or living, or something drops into our sphere. There's a purpose, there's an energetic alignment happening there. So there's no space to run and hide from energy, and your energy is everywhere. And what your energy is attracts what you're ready for and what you need. And that always is not the best thing. Sometimes it can feel like a dark attraction, because the something within us, the shadow within us, is attracting this thing or this person or this experience because it's time to grow through it. And sometimes we're energetically attracting something that's of the light, and it's this positive reconnection and affirmation that you're on the right path. And I truly believe that we need both. I always think about the yin and the yang sign, because I'm such a yogi and I just love everything that comes from this balance of the yin and the yang. And if you think about, there's this big white part on the side with a little black dot, and there's a big black part with a little white dot, and there's just this messaging of there's some darkness in the light and there's some light in the darkness, and we must have both to see one or the other. And I play around with this often because it pops up in my life often. I feel like I really am tuned into how can I balance this, and I practice that in my yoga a lot personally when I'm on my mat, and when I'm teaching and guiding. I talk a lot about the light and the dark, and I find that to be really important, because there are many people in the spiritual world that are peace, love, and light, and just breathe your way through it and stay calm and everything will be fine. And I love that, because I wish that we could be there all the time. And I also know by personal experience that ain't real life. There is darkness, and there's supposed to be darkness. We're here to grow. This is human earth school. And if we drop down into earth school and it was like, la, 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 everything is glorious and we love each other and it's all perfect, like, what are we learning? And especially when it's dark and hard, I'm like, why? Why does it have to be so dark and hard? And then I get onto the other side when I come back to the light, and I'm like, oh, wow, I grew so much from that moment and I'm so grateful. And now I feel more expansive as a person. Now I understand this life a little bit better. And now I understand people and their human inner workings a little bit better. And it gives you that tenacity and that strength. Like, I really truly believe that growing through the darkness is what's going to make us strong, powerful, empowered human beings that are connected as above, so below, right? Like the light above and the dark below are both so necessary in that intricate process of light. And as within, so without, right? Like the darkness within, like it's dark in there. There's a womb in there that's like it's all encaved and encased in our body human meat suit. And then as without. So if we're feeling the lightness within, we see the lightness without. If we're feeling the darkness within, we're seeing the darkness without. So it's just this beautiful balance. All that to be said, that I'm excited to be starting this process again. I'm excited to be here again. I'm excited to share again. And I knew it was time because for the past week or so, or maybe longer, but definitely the past week specifically, I've been having dreams about it and waking up, it's the first thing on my mind. What am I going to do with my pod? Am I ready for my YouTube channel? Am I ready to really put myself out there again? And the nerves would bubble up, and then I would pull on my cards and the card would be like yes, and then I would ask somebody and they would be like yes, please, I miss your content. Or then I would go within and there was a yes in there. And it's also nervous, like there's a little nervous yes in there, and it's because it matters. Like this matters to me. And on the shadow side, I believe that the nerves come from because I really care about what people think of me. And that is a shadow because it can stop me from doing things that feel expansive and feel like I am stepping into my unique voice and stepping into my unique message and stepping into this next level, this next layer. And from a very young age, I was judged professionally. I was a gymnast, and every routine, every mark, every point, every posture, every shape was judged. And so that is a part of me that I'm so grateful for because it taught me so much discipline, community, team, strength, dedication, ritual. And there's a judgy judge side there that I'm working through. How can I not let that inner critic hold me back? How can I not let what I think other people are going to think of me hold me back? Because essentially, it's just a story. It's just a story that I'm creating in my mind. And every time I notice it, hello, thank you for coming. Thank you for being my inner judge. And we're good because I feel called to share my message and I feel called to step into it. And so if it's in me and it's coming into the light and it's telling me that it's time, my job is to follow that. So I'm following that here all the way into this moment. And what makes me most excited about this particular pod is because it's 11/11. Today is the 11/11 portal, November 11th. And I was born at 11/11 on December 10th. So that's a really big deal. It has always felt very angelic. Anytime I've gotten my natal chart read or done anything with astrology, it's always been like, whoa, 11/11. Okay, cool. And the more that I grow into my practices, the more I can feel my angelic guide and my higher team and my star seed team that I've recently learned about. And I'm just really expanding into the unseen world and the unseen realms. And that can be scary to some, and a conversation that some people are like, what the hell are you talking about? And also, the more you lean into it, it's like, well, yeah, that's where creation is, in the unknown and in the unseen. And so that's why it can be scary because it's unknown. That is where the darkness is, and not in a negative, like lower vibration darkness, but just like unknown, truly unknown. And when we get into the guidance of it and we trust the guidance of it, it becomes lighter. And we shine a light in this area where we're like, wow, that's really magical. And that's where creation is. And that's where we can really feel this safety and this connection and this faith. this deeper faith and this deeper trust in something higher than us, something more powerful than us, something is also within us, which makes us our most powerful selves. So it's not necessarily that it's out there and untouchable, but it is until you reach out for it. And it is until you open up to it and say, okay, I'm ready for the guidance and I'm ready for the messages. And that's where I'm at in my journey. And I think that that's a little bit where the nerves come from because it's still brand new to me, but it's also given me the most incredible guidance. It's also helped me through some very dark times. It's also helping me feel like my most expansive self. It's helping me find my inner voice, my highest potential, my highest self. And I'm finding a lot of incredible channels on YouTube where there are people sharing about this and they're having similar experiences and even higher, deeper, faster, longer, more expansive experiences where they're really like channeling and feeling the depth of what these esoteric beings are saying, and they're welcoming into this life and into this lifetime these um bigger energies. We'll just say it as that. That's how I feel about it. Like these are these bigger energies. They're God-like energies. They're angelic energies. They're spiritual beings. They're ETs. They're our loved ones that are still soul star seeds all around us that are guiding us. They're lost loved ones that are coming to us with these beautiful messages, these guiding messages that they're so ready for this message to get to us, to land with us, to come into our hearts, to say, listen, I can help you. I can guide you. You don't have to do this on your own. This isn't meant to be done on your own. And one of the most recent messages that I got from this was, your unseen team is this team of people that are up high above and they're guiding you. You have a little radio tune in, and if you tune into that frequency and they're tuned into their frequency, and you can say, guide me. I'm open. I trust. I can hear you. I'm listening. I allow your inner wisdom to guide my inner wisdom. And they're above this crazy maze that we're in, and they can see and they can help and they can say, oh, maybe not that way. Let's try this way. And sometimes you listen and sometimes you don't. And sometimes you're like, I got this. I'm going down the maze this way. And it ends up being a dead end. And you're like, okay, now I'm really listening. And you come back and you listen and they guide you in a new way. And so it's this constant ebb and flow with, are you listening? Are you tapping in? Do you trust the message? Because sometimes the message doesn't make sense logically. And I'll get a message and be like, what? What does that even mean? And then I flip to a book and it says the same thing. And then I follow it, and it ends up being exactly the path that I was meant to take. And sometimes I don't listen and I have a hard lesson, and it's just a part of the process. It's a part of the learning process. So I just really am inviting that in on this particular date, this 11/11 portal, because I truly believe in that guidance and I know that it's there for me. I see it and I feel it every single day. Every single day. And the more clear and aligned I become, the more clear and aligned that channel becomes. And one of the messages that I've been receiving is that I am a channel for those messages. And I've been a little bit nervous about, like, how do I really tap into that? When will I really know? And that's where this message really came to light the other day, that was like, go on YouTube and start your channel, start your actual channel, and know that when you open that up and trust that and speak to the highest good and speak for your highest self, the message will be gifted there. So here we are, and I'm really checking out of where it's going to go, because the ego mind also wants, like, where's this going to go and what's this going to look like and who's going to be there and who's going to listen and what are you going to talk about? And I really got into that space today, and I was like, hold on, let's just talk about today's message and start there. Let's talk about 11/11. Let's talk about the numbers and the synchronicities and how beautiful that is. I think 11/11 is one of the most potent angel numbers. So if you see that often, or you're feeling that often, or you want to see that often, like, call it in. I need some guidance. Dear guides, please give me some guidance. And then we get to zip it and quiet down and listen. And when I ask for guidance, I typically come into a meditative space. I'll journal or I'll light some palo or a candle. I'll open one of my favorite esoteric books or something that's like got some really deep spiritual guidance, or I'll pull a card. There's so many ways that you can connect. Maybe you just sit and breathe, something so, so simple. And then you ask for that guidance. And I promise you that guidance is there. And it takes believing. And what's that quote that says, you'll believe it when you see it? But there's also what I believe to be more powerful is you'll see it when you believe it. Put that on. Put that in your trust bank. Like, okay, I believe it. I believe it. I believe it. And then boom, you see it. And you're like, yes, all right. I believe it, and now I see it, and now we can really grow from there. So, so, so incredible. So I've been thinking a lot about 1111 and what it's meant to me and how it's guided me. And today I was like thinking about, okay, 1111 is these like pillars, like, right? Four pillars, 11s, four pillars. So the first pillar is you. And that first pillar is so important because you are number one in your life. And that's not in a selfish, egotistical way. You're the main character in your movie. So it's so important to take care of number one and have that first pillar in alignment so that the rest of the pillars can follow, right? And these other pillars could be community. These other pillars could be your rituals and your health and your family and your life. And what are the rest of the pillars in your life? And are you trying to count on these other pillars before your number one pillar is strong? And I truly believe that this first strong pillar is what will design the rest of the strength and the rest of the pillars because there's the alignment, right? Like if you have a wonky first pillar, the rest of it's just going to be messy. And that's been my experience in my life. And that's also the other reason I'm really excited about today is because today is 5 years for me booze free. Five. 5 years. Biggest, hardest, best decision I ever made was to remove alcohol out of my life. And it wasn't even the initial intention. I just felt out of alignment. And at that time, 5 years ago, I had checked a lot of the boxes, a lot of the societal boxes. And I'm going to go into that for a minute because I think it's really important to add my story to help you understand where we can be messy and then choose a different path and how that new path can illuminate with determination, with ritual and new habits and new connection and new beliefs truly is what that takes. So I just want to invite that in and invite my story in because then you can feel more related, more relatable. I can be more relatable to you. So 5 years ago, checking all the boxes, I had just moved and bought a condo. So boom, like checking off the box of the house homeowner. I had a successful business. My insurance business was growing and doing fantastic. And I always knew that it wasn't like my end game, but it was going really well. I had just gotten engaged. So boom, like checking another big life box. I had an amazing dog. I lived in my like one of my ultimate favorite towns. I still live there. It's been such a journey to get here, but it was like on my list. Like, I want to live in this town that like lights me up, that I know I will grow and flourish in. So, boom, look at all these boxes, checking, checking, checking all the boxes. I thought I was doing all the right things health wise to be a healthy person. And at the end of the day, I was tired. I was disconnected. I was in so much physical pain, so much physical pain. I didn't really have a faith in something higher than myself. I felt spiritual-ish through yoga, and yoga hasn't always been a place where us teachers can talk really spiritually. I think in the West, we've done a really good job at making yoga a workout, and it's a beautiful workout and it's really great for the body. And I believe that there's this missing component that I feel so honored to be adding back into the yoga practice here locally at my yoga studio at Harmony. And that is that spiritual component. That is that life reflection component. That is that going within. Are you just moving your body to move your body to get your workout? Or are you taking the time to actually pause and breathe? So, flashback 5 years ago, that's not what the practice was about for me. I was very much just going through the motions and how hard can I sweat and how sore can I be and can I do my handstand and flex in half and all those things, which are awesome, right? Like, yay, you get the gold star for being the best yoga person. Not that I was the best, but you know what I mean? Like, that was what I was striving to be. And deep pain. I'm talking the whole left side of my body, like my whole arm was just pulsing in pain all the time. And one day in particular, the whole side of my head was just pulsing in pain. I had been to the local PT, I had done needling and acupuncture and chiropractic and cupping and paying thousands of dollars to try and figure out like what was actually going on. And I got a download one day that I didn't know that that's what that was, but it just kept saying, like, go figure out your nutrition. And no one in particular was guiding me to this. And that's why I know it was a download. It's just like things kept falling into my lap. And finally, I landed upon this naturopath that was up the way from my house and decided to go up and get my food sensitivity test. And lo and behold, I was, my cortisol was out the roof, which is your fight or flight, your stress. I was very, very, very stressed. And my adrenals were low because of the high stress. And I had some food sensitivity. So my gut health was really not well. I had leaky gut, which happens when you have food sensitivities that you're not taking care of, when you have any antibiotic in your whole history, which there's antibiotics all over our food now. So you're really getting that in general. And so I was just internally a mess. But externally, I felt like I was doing really good. I was checking the boxes. My body seemed to be okay. I, all the things that you would think of. So this woman guided me to do the food elimination, get on some really high-end supplements to do the pro and prebiotics and the adrenals and the cortisol and all those pieces, right? And there was a moment when I was telling my little sister, and she suggested to remove alcohol. And I thought, why would I do that? And then I thought a little harder and I was like, why wouldn't I do that? I couldn't think of a time that I didn't not drink. At that point in my life, it was nearly every day. The person in my life who I was engaged to, that was our go-to. Every night, a bottle of wine at least. Every day, if I could pop some champagne, I would be popping some champagne, which is why I'm feeling like 11:11 today and I'm not drunk. And that is phenomenal. Like I'm feeling the full magic of this day because 11:11 would have just been another reason to celebrate. Like, pop that champagne. Let's get this party started. I was definitely drinking every day. Drinking to be when I was sad, drinking to celebrate, drinking just to drink, drinking because there was a new wine, drinking because I drove by the liquor store, drinking because I was going to somebody's house for dinner, drinking, drinking, drinking. My life revolved around drinking. And I didn't see it as a problem. I didn't see myself with a problem as an addict, as an alcoholic. I didn't see any of that. It didn't ever ring to me, even though I had very clear alcoholism around me and I could see those examples. It wasn't me. That wasn't me. So, on this day, 5 years ago, I began my journey. I eliminated the foods I was sensitive to. I got on these incredible supplements. I eliminated alcohol. And it wasn't a cold, okay, eliminated alcohol and we were done. 30 days from my elimination date was my birthday, and there was wedding dress shopping and all the things. So we were popping bottles. Me and my bestie, we were going for it. And then all my friends gathered for my birthday, and we were still going for it. And I hadn't drank in 30 days, which was the first time in my life at how old was I? 5 years ago, I was 36, turning 37. And I had never gone 30 days without alcohol since starting to drink when I was in my teens. Whoa. And I drank a little bit later. I started drinking a little bit later because I was a gymnast and I was really dedicated to that. And I wasn't as caught up in that party lifestyle, but it was there and I was doing it. But I would say it wasn't until I was in my early 20s that I really got kick started and going. So at least, almost 20 years of that. But anyway, so imagine 30-day break and then went all back in. I felt like garbage for days. And there was some fights that took place between me and my fiance at the time and my fiance and my bestie, and it was just messy. It was freaking messy, but it was kind of normal. Like that was kind of normal for my life. That of course there would be chaos and mess because we were in a chaotic space. I was consuming toxic chemicals that were making my life chaotic, like out of alignment. That first pillar, sideways. All the time. Like my pillar wasn't straight and aligned and solid and foundational. It was like meh, or meh, or meh. If you're not on YouTube, I'm making my number one finger sideways. Anyway, so maybe you should join me on YouTube because you can see my silliness. Anywho, so that was a real awakening. That was my first real awakening to wow, something could be wrong with this picture. Something feels wrong. So I did pretty good for my birthday at the beginning of December, not drinking until holiday. I had like one or two, but I was really light on it. I felt like I really need to commit back to this. So it was like, but it was hard because it was my first time around my family, around my friends, holidays, that's like, if we're going to drink, those are those drinking days. But I was good. And I'd have like a glass and then I would feel it the next day. And then I didn't drink through January, did really good. And then we went on a big family vacation in February and it was messy because of alcohol, like extremely messy. And at some point, I will have a conversation on here about that because it's really important. There was some major breakthroughs, but it was messy. And I came back from that trip and I realized I didn't want to participate in that anymore. I didn't want my life to feel that messy. And for somebody who likes things to be orderly, I have a type A, I want things in their place. I like to be in control. I like perfection, like talk about all the judgy stuff that comes from gymnastics. I like that. I like things to feel aligned and sturdy and strong and stable. Like, doesn't everybody? No, clearly not everybody does, but that's okay. But I do. I do. I do. So it's really interesting looking back on like how many years I allowed this messiness to happen. And I believe it's because I was afraid of my own light. I was afraid of stepping outside of that norm. And it wasn't as accepted unless you had an addiction problem. Like, admittedly, we're like, okay, I'm going to AA. I need rehab. I need to go all in. And I was like somewhere in the in between. Like, on paper, am an alcoholic. Like, drinking every single day, all the time is alcoholism. And I have that in my blood and I have that addiction nature where like if I'm in, I'm all in, right? And so there wasn't this space to be like, oh, I'm just not going to drink because all of my friends, I lived a very fast-paced business world, downtown Denver lifestyle where it was like we were going out, we were all up in the club and we were doing our thing and we were going to big parties, lots of things happening, lots of big party life, big nightlife. Anyway, I was growing out of that. And I had grown out of that at the beginning of 2020. And I felt this shift happening within my body. I felt something collectively happening as well. And that's where this whole trusting and understanding and listening to your guides starts to come into place too, because there was this inner voice within me. And this inner voice was saying, it's time for a shift. Like, holy shift. It is happening. And you get to take that control back right now in your own life and allow the shift to begin with you so that you can be that number one pillar and that strong pillar in your own life because everything else is changing. And the inner voice was also saying, it's time to end this relationship that you're in. Forget about what everybody else is going to think. Forget about the fact that you've already paid for your wedding dress. Forget about that you've put deposits down on venues. None of that matters. this is done. We had grown completely apart in the last few months of my sobriety, and there was some clear messages that told me that we just weren't in alignment. This person was not my person. And that has nothing to do with like not talking bad about him. It just wasn't right for me, period. And that is that first moment, March 13th of 2020, where I took my power back and said, you have to go. Thank you. Bye. This is no longer working. And we're done here because I'm taking my power back. And I didn't know that. I didn't use that language then. But I see it so clearly now. And it was very scary because I was in a new town, newly sober, newly single, and 1 week later, the world shut down. 2020 happened. So this is my first, and I bring all that full circle to say this was the first time I truly listened to my inner guidance. There was no choice. It was saying like full stop, make this change, or it's going to get really messy. And luckily, I was clear enough to hear that message and to trust that message and to get back into alignment with my number one pillar, me. And what followed, the pillars to follow that were my health and my reconnection to my trust and my faith in something greater than me, to me making sovereign decisions all through 2020. I chose me. And that upset some people. And I was okay with that because I could keep coming back to the pillar within and go, that's okay that you're making a different decision. I trust and know that you're making that decision that's best for you. And some people were making decisions because the collective was telling them to, and that's okay too. Everybody did the best that they could with the knowledge that they had. I was sovereign and I felt it deep within my body. I am trusting me. I am making this decision for myself because it's best for me. All of it. Sobriety, breaking off my engagement, choosing the things that I chose throughout 2020, staying within my own self, connecting to my inner light through specifically through my health and my clarity. And I believe that taking care of your number one pillar requires that. It requires this ritual, this connection, this deep inner knowing so that you can be the foundation to the rest of the pillars, to the rest of the 1111s, right? Like this is the foundation. And I'm just so proud to get to this moment and to get to this point and have fought through lots of darkness. It has not been perfect or pretty. And I've stayed the course and I continue to stay the course. And I'm at the point where I'm growing into a more expanded version of myself, knowing that I've got my own back, knowing that I am the strongest pillar in my own life. And that's taken, I've lost friendships. I've, made some big changes in my family dynamics. I've made some changes in my home. I've made lots of changes in my life. And I'm no longer focused on checking those societal boxes because I know that that's not where I thrive. I thrive in being unique and I thrive in trusting that my inner guides will be guiding me every step of the way. And that is where Here We Grow comes into play, is that I'm at the place where I know my next steps are to help others see that within themselves, to offer practices, to hold space, just like I'm doing every week at my yoga studio. I'm holding space for so many people, and I'm ready to go bigger. I'm ready to have this offering be even wider. And that might be just a few hundred people, and that's okay. It might be 10. I don't know. I'm not trying to get ahead of myself, but that was the ego mind going like, who's going to watch this and will it be viral and who's going to really connect to it? And it's 333 right now. Oh my gosh. My angel numbers have been on fire. I also pulled the 333 card this morning that I have sitting here, the Tigress. And this card was all about Yeah, feeling that inner strength and trusting that inner knowing and being your own unique version. We're in a pivotal time right now where we are moving away from this structure of systems, and the system knows best, and you got to learn the system, and you got to play the system games, and you got to stay in the system. But the system right now is designed and seems to be favoring the people at the top. They've got full control. They're saying what goes and what doesn't go. They're saying what goes in our food and what doesn't go in our food. They're saying what we can and can't do, how much we can and can't participate, or what we owe, or where we're growing, or what we learn, or it's deep, right? And if you're tapping into the energy of the collective, we're moving into a time where there's more than enough for everyone. Not that there won't be the like top leaders. Of course, we need leaders, but there will be more and a more dynamic option for leaders. Right. And instead of if that person's successful, there won't be enough for me, it's like, oh, that person's success lights me up and helps me recognize that there's enough for me and there's enough for both of us, and we can support each other to the top. There's enough room for people, whoever wants to take the climb, whoever wants to go on this mission and pull away from some of these toxic system structures. It's crumbling, and there's a shift, and it's not going to happen overnight. There's also a rebuilding. So again, that perspective of what are we focusing on? Are we focused on the crumble and the darkness and the things that feel so heavy, and these changes that are happening, and the systems that feel so confusing, and we feel like we're losing so much? If we shift just this way and move our perspective just a little bit, we can see that there's a sliver of light coming through, and it's getting wider and it's getting bigger. And there's more people collectively leaning into that. And that sliver of light is their heart opening. We're going from a very heady, um, analytical society to a heart-based society. And it's going to take some time. And it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be perfect. It's going to be rocky, as it should. Any change is rocky because it's scary. Just like restarting this pod, I'm scared. Like I have this little fear bubbling up inside of me. And yet I sit down and think about it and ask for guidance. And it's so clear, like messages of love and light and support and higher vibration and abundance are going to add to that collective opening, because there's a collective opening. There's a new channel awaiting, and it's going to be such a massive difference. And I know that it's a few years out of where we're growing to, but I look back on these last 5 years of my change and my challenges and the amount of shadows that I have faced. And it's a drop in the bucket comparatively. It's worth every second of that work. Right now, we get to tend to our own gardens. That's like the message I'm getting so clear. It's like, come back home, tend to your garden. What does that look like? Like for me, I had to pull up a weed today, a big ass weed today in my own energetic garden that was saying, you're not good enough. You're not going to have enough followers. No one's going to understand your message. What are you even doing? What are you going to say? What's it going to look like? What camera are you going to use? Where are you going to sit? That was a massive set. Okay, lots of weeds that had to be ripped up for me to go, no, thank you. Those that messaging isn't serving me, and it's not serving you, and it's not serving the collective. And until we become aware of it and figure out what's the root of that, where is that message rooted in you of unworthiness, of you have to stay stuck in the system in a place that you don't desire, or stuck in a relationship that doesn't feel good, or feel stuck and addicted to a toxin that isn't serving your life, or maybe you're stuck in a pattern that just feels so heavy, or like physical being is just heavy and you can't figure out where to go. And you feel maybe hopeless because everything around you feels like it's crumbling. I want to offer the message that when it gets the darkest, that means that the light is shining in those areas for exposure. When you feel like, oh my gosh, that's coming out in the news and that's happening around in my life, and now I see that, and now I feel that, and now I see that, take a step back up for just a second and recognize that if you didn't see it, if we collectively didn't see it, it would stay underground in that dark shadow place. But there's so much light coming to surface. There's so much coming out to surface now that we're seeing it and we're transmuting it. And that's what's going to happen in your own life. As you're stepping into this place where you're ready to take your power back, and power in a different way. I think up until recently, we've known power as like the man at the top and the man in control and the systems that's just forcing us. That's a forceful power. Empowerment is more like your inner light shining. It's more like this fire that is within you. It's that pillar. You're powerful, but you're not running over people. You're not bulldozing over people. You're not taking advantage of people. You're going, I'm sovereign, I'm powerful, and then that helps the collective rise. I'm sovereign, I'm doing my work, and that helps my body feel better. All those other pillars light up. I'm sovereign, I'm confident, and so therefore the rest of my life follows with this strength, with these pillars. I just keep going back to this image in my head of the 11 pillars. Like, feel how powerful that is. And if one of those pillars isn't strong enough and it's not doing its own work, there's a weakness in it. And so I really love this idea that us building our own pillar of strength helps the collective feel stronger, because you become this reflection of what people see as possibility, of the abundance that you're creating. And abundance can be so many things. We get clear on what that abundance is. Because if you just say, I want abundance in my life, maybe you'll get abundance of bugs in your house. So I've been getting really clear, like, I would love an abundance of powder days. On such a like silly level. I would love an abundance of financial stability. I would love an abundance of love in my life. I would love an abundance of people coming into my yoga studio to feel the energetic power that's there for all of us to share. I would love an abundance of people taking their power back. I'm at a place in my life where when I see somebody taking their power back, I'm more empowered than feeling like I'm in competition with that person. One of my favorite things is seeing somebody at the gym who you can tell is brand new there. They're just figuring it out. I worked out next to a girl the other day. We were in a group class and she just was like trying to figure out. And I just kept saying, you're doing great. Like, follow along, try this way. At the end, I gave her a big high five. I'm like, you're inspiring, because I want to see more people that are just figuring it out and making it, leaning into this messy action, which is what I'm doing today. It was time for me to take this messy action and take all that I've learned in the last, specifically in the last 10 months, 11 months. I've been in it. My last podcast was in May, and all those podcasts at the beginning of the year were very heavy. Like, just I was in it. There was some massive lessons and some major pain that I was working through, and some breakthroughs. I was having some really, really, really deep breakthroughs that I trust and know that I'll have time to get into in this pod as I grow with this pod and this vlog. And I just really look forward to sharing more of that with you and giving you tools and tips. Like, today is way more about me just sitting here and opening the gate. And that's also that 11 portal, right? The portal is open. I am opening these gates into a more expanded version of myself, into opening my personal channel so that I can channel through to you with a message that may or may not land. And that's okay. I watch tons of YouTubes and tons of podcasts. I read tons of books, and sometimes they land and sometimes they don't. Sometimes I go back around to them later and then they land. So it's just like, where are you at in your life? is going to determine what you're attracting, what messages you're attracting, what people you're attracting, what experiences you're attracting, which is why it's more important now than ever to be that pillar of strength in your own life, because that is going to give you the ability to attract and magnetize the things that are best for you, that are in your best interest. And that doesn't mean perfect. And that doesn't mean like every experience is going to be awesome when I'm in alignment. Actually, it's quite the opposite. When you decide, which is so annoying, but when you decide that you want something different in your life, you want your life to feel and look a new way. Like, let's just take my drinking, for example. When I was ready to cut alcohol out of my life, all of the sudden there was more events with alcohol. I noticed it everywhere. I was like having a really hard time. And that's that moment of, are you going to really lean in or not? We get tested. There's this testing that happens like, oh, yeah, you want that? Okay, well, I'm going to test you first. I'm going to see what your level of commitment is. You don't want to drink alcohol? I'm going to have your 5 best friends call you in the next week, and each one of them invite you to a big ass event with all kinds of booze. It happens. Or I want to work out and then suddenly, I want to get healthier. I want to work out. Suddenly you get sick, or suddenly you have something going on at work. Suddenly you're so busy. Suddenly all you can't find that hour of time or that half an hour of time for the gym because you're being tested. How committed are you? How far are you willing to go to get this result that you truly desire? I really believe in the theory that life's going to give you what you desire, and it's going to make you stronger first. So life's going to get better, and it will be amazing when you finally move through all of these challenges, but it is going to challenge you first. Just like working out. I go back to this all the time. You're not going to go into the gym and lift a weight and be done. And actually, it's really frustrating because you could get to this point of feeling so strong. And then maybe you miss a week or miss 2 weeks, and then you go back and you feel like you've taken 10 steps back. But the strength is there. It will pick back up really quickly. So that's going to be this piece that's going to be so important is habits and rituals. I believe that addiction can be overcome with adding fresh new things into your life. It was really important for me to crowd out, which means add in really positive, really great things into my life so that it pushed out the things that were no longer working. All of a sudden I was busy working out, which is making my body feel really good, which then was one more reason why I didn't want to drink alcohol. Right? I was in nutrition school at the time. And so then I was learning all about what food does to our body, how we're nourishing our body. And at the end of the day, we're just plants with emotions. So if you're pouring toxins into your soil in your plant, and it's not growing, it's not healthy, it's not fruiting, it's not thriving, there's no really reason to question or wonder why. Like, we know why. We're not feeding it what it needs. So why would you do any different for yourself and expect any different for yourself? It's one thing if you're like, yeah, I'm eating like shit, I'm drinking all the time, I'm indulging in all of these things that I know are low vibrational and not good for me, and I feel like shit and I know that, and that's fine. Maybe that's the goal and where you're at. That's fine. Trust that, go with that, but also know that you're worthy of more. You're worthy to feel really good in this lifetime. You're worthy to be a plant that blossoms and blooms and grows to its highest heights, because that's what you're here to do. As a being of light, which you are, as a shadow worker, which you have more than enough worth to live a worthy life filled with whatever you desire: abundance, travel, a job you love, a relationship that's nourishing, freedom. All the things are possible. All the things are possible. And it just takes your dedication. It takes your tenacity. It takes you standing up for what you know is best for your life and leaning all the way in. Unwavering lean all the way in. And this doesn't mean you won't have your down days. There's days I lay in bed and I'm just like, I cannot even be bothered. I have to have those days. I have to have those days where I just fully reset And I'm at a place in my life where I've made some great decisions for myself in the last few years. And so I have that time freedom where I can schedule the ability to go within and to do some really deep soul care. And today was one of those days, and it changes my whole life. It changes my whole energetic field. When I'm feeling low, when I'm depressed, when I'm sad about the inner workings and the outer workings of this existence, woo, I gotta rest. I gotta reset. I gotta refill this heart center of mine because that is the key. So I leave you with this today. What are the things that will help your pillar be its strongest physically, emotionally, spiritually? What can you add into your life that is going to make this pillar rock solid? And add that as many days as possible. I would be lying if I sat here and said, I meditate every day, I journal every day, I take time for myself every day, I'm slow and kind to myself, and I speak kind to myself, and I speak kind to others every day. Oh, no, no, no. It is a work in progress. And I'm more consistent now than I ever have been. If I only have 10 minutes to meditate, I do it first thing in the morning because it changes my whole day. It aligns my energetic field. It connects me to the divine. It helps me feel like my higher powers are guiding me. My highest self is guiding me. My angel team is guiding me. I pull a card almost every day. Those cards are my guidance. The oracles have my back, and it is true and tried and proven every single day. Tried and true, true and tried every single day. Those cards guide me. And I've been watching some beautiful tarot card pullers and angel card readers online, and they are pulling. It's so wild. I have like 4 people that I watch, and some of them have just like come into my algorithm so perfectly, so divinely, and they're pulling the same cards as each other. So all of them are pulling the same cards for my readings in different settings. The shit's real. Okay. See it and you'll believe it. Or what is that? Yeah. Anyway, you got it. You know what I mean. You will see it when you believe it. That's what I was trying to say. So what are those pillars? What are those pillars in your life? Is it working out? Is it getting up at a time that feels really good? Is it drinking water in the morning before coffee? Is it staying off your phone as often as possible, especially in the morning? You are the most sensitive and your channel is the most open first thing in the morning. So you starting your day in alignment is so, so, so important. So what is that alignment for you? What is that purpose and that pillar for you? Like tap into that deeply. And if it's not every day, don't be hard on yourself. We're not here to be judgy McJudgersons. Remember, we're here to be compassionate and kind to ourselves. So allow that pillar to just be what it is. And it sometimes isn't its strongest, and that's okay. But choose things that will make that pillar strong, and then really lean into what do the rest of those pillars look like? What are those pillars there for you to do? Like, how are they going to also support you? Is it people? Is it experiences? Is it things? Is it activities? Is it rituals? Like, what is really going to give you these 4 pillars of life that will take you to that next level? Because I want to be on that journey with you. I want to be on this journey where the gates are opening. And now that this 1111 portal is open, and once it's open and once you're tapped in, you can tap back into it all the time. It's an energetic receiving practice. So stay open to it, trust it, know it, and align with it. And I want to say that I look forward to being on this journey with other people who are aligned and motivated and open. They're opening their heart space. We're getting out of our head more. We're feeling into the collective. We're supporting each other. We're recognizing that the systems maybe don't have our best interest in mind. So we're saying, okay, thank you for that. Thank you for all that you've done, because we get to be grateful for all that's gone on, right? Like without all the steps that have gotten to us to this point, we wouldn't be here. And it's time to pivot. It's time for the awakening. It's time for the shift that we're in. Lean in, trust and know that the world is a lot bigger than these small perspectives we have on our little phone computer screens that we get so tuned into, so channeled into. Step back, widen your perspective, tap into your rituals, tap into your pillar within. And I hope that you'll stay tuned into this channel because I am going to, like I said, I'm going to be adding a lot of different modalities, a lot of different ways that we can heal together, that we can share together. One thing I love on YouTube is that we can add comments. So if you want to throw something in the comments and talk about what your pillars are, and maybe someone else relates to your pillars, maybe you have questions about how to even begin. Maybe you're sober curious and you want to talk about that, which I love. I'm open and I'm here for it. My channel is open. And I would love for you to please subscribe to this channel, which just helps me get to an amount of followers so that I can go live on my phone. And that will help me to film and to share and to be channeling from many different spaces. And that just opens up the whole portal. The portal's open. So 1111, here we grow 2.0. Stay tuned for just so much expansion to happen, guests and rituals and practices and just connecting with me, connecting all collectively. Like this is just such a beautiful portal of light that I'm so excited to be opening and sharing with you. And thank you so much for being here with me. I love you. Here we grow.